Hello students, I welcome you all. Presently, we are dealing with Girish Karnad's historical play Tughlaq, which is based on the historical developments in the life of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who shifted his capital city from Delhi to Daulatabad in 1327, and again he went back to Delhi in 1332. As you know, Muhammad bin Tughlaq ruled over most of the part of this Indian subcontinent, and he was one of the very dominating personality of his era. He ruled over the state for almost 20 years or so. But the present play, written by Girish Karnad, mainly focuses on only 5 years of his life. That is 1327 to 1332. These 5 years of the life of Muhammad bin Tughlaq are considered to be very crucial, because whatever idealism Tughlaq had, and in the later part of his life, the kind of disillusionment, frustration, and failure he experienced presents a contrast of his life. Since we started this play for a detailed study, and in the previous class we discussed scene number 13, which is the last scene of this play. When we holistically look at Tughlaq as a play by Girish Karnad, we come to a conclusion that Muhammad bin Tughlaq is a very highly dominating personality of his time. According to a few historians, he was the most wonderful king that ever ruled India. There are a couple of reasons also to support this stand and the observation of the historians. Number one, he was a visionary. Second, an idealist. Third, a learned scholar. And the fourth and the most important, that he was a crafty politician. So these are the observations of some of the historians those who strongly promoted that Muhammad bin Tughlaq was really the most wonderful king that ever ruled Indian subcontinent. But in the play, we have our own observations as a reader, as a student, as a connoisseur. When we come across this character, we are always confused about his approach, about his manipulations, his political strategy, his diplomacy, and moreover, his murderous attitude towards his enemies. So ultimately, when we reach out to the end of the play, we saw Tughlaq sleeping there in the throne, and when he gets up from his sound sleep, he is shown to be confused and in a chaotic mind. It indicates that he was totally demoralized, spiritually degenerated, politically a failure, and all his idealism shattered in the course of time. So the way he started with his kingdom in the capacity of the king, and the way he ended up, that is a big contrast, what I personally feel as a student of literature. But anyhow, I believe that all of you have enjoyed this particular play, which is based on the historical facts related to Muhammad bin Tughlaq. In this class, I am going to talk on Muhammad bin Tughlaq and his character portrayal by Girish Karnad. Right in the beginning, when I started this play, I talked in detail about the craftsmanship of Girish Karnad as a dramatist. The way he handled this historical figure named Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But now, I would like to focus on this central character of the play who dominates the entire plot of the play right from beginning till the end. As I said, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the emperor of the Sultanate, or you can say the emperor of the Delhi Sultanate, is the central character of Girish Karnad's historical play Tughlaq. But one feature of his personality I would like to focus on, that he is labeled as a wonderful king who ever ruled over India. He was a visionary, an idealist, a learned person, a great scholar, a crafty politician, and a very diplomatic man, a man of diplomacy, I would say. But when we try to observe minutely throughout the play, we also come to a conclusion that he holds his own against his odds, and heavy odds, I would say. His lofty ideals, dreams of disintegration of a noble idealist could be seen in the entire play. When we witness the play, we realize that the author did not focus on the achievements of Tughlaq, but moreover he focused on the frustration, degeneration and failure of Tughlaq. Of course, he remains to be the central character, no doubt about it. And his dualism can also be seen from his action. He had his noble ideals, his own vision to develop his state, but the people of his contemporary time or the contemporary politicians, courtiers and his own subject did not understand him. And I think that is the actual failure of his entire tenure. When you are misinterpreted and misunderstood by the contemporaries, it means there is a gap. And as I said while teaching you the play, that some people also called him Mad Tughlaq for different reasons. Because the kind of vision that he had for the country was not really understood by the contemporaries, and consequently they did not support and cooperated Tughlaq. And as a result, his administrative reforms, political reforms, his idealism, everything got shattered in the course of life. And Girish Karnad picked up this aspect of his life and very effectively portrayed the character of Muhammad bin Tughlaq as a man of opposites. Because his ideals contradict with the reality. His divine aspirations again contradict with his deft intrigues against his enemies. Most of the times he says one thing and does the another thing. So as a whole, we could see that Muhammad bin Tughlaq proves to be a man of opposites. Here I would like to quote an eminent scholar and a critic named Professor M.K. Naik. He points out that Karnad projects the curious contradictions in the complex personality of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who was at once a dreamer and a man of action, benevolent and cruel, devout and callous. See the kind of words selected by M.K. Naik while talking about or while commenting about Muhammad bin Tughlaq and his portrayal in the play Tughlaq by Karnad. So this remark itself is very apt and suggestive, because that actually highlights the various facets of the personality of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. At one place we say he is benevolent, and immediately M.K. Naik comments that he was cruel. He says he was devout, and on the other hand, he is also portrayed as callous. So I think that is sufficient enough to talk about this man, that is Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who was the king of Delhi Sultanate for almost 20 years or so. Now you see, I would like to highlight on one more important facet of the personality of Tughlaq. That is his scholarship. I would like to brief you that Muhammad bin Tughlaq was well versed in Greek, Persian, and Arabic literature. It indicates that he was a learned man. He has gone through various literary creations by the Greek poets, writers, Persian and Arabic poets and writers, and so on. We could see the influence of the Greek doctrine or the ideals of Socrates or Plato on the ideology of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. When he talks about the concept of equality, irrespective of the religious diversity found in Indian subcontinent, it leads us to the ideology that of Plato, who is mentioned in Persian literature as Aflatun. And we find that his idealism for the development of his own sultanate is based on some of the values of Greek, Persian, and Arabic literary figures. He has derived these ideas from literature. One more evidence I would like to give. We know that he has cultivated a rose garden there in his palace at Daulatabad. You will be surprised to know that the plantation of the rose garden is somewhat related to the poems of Sadi, because Sheikh Sadi of Persia wrote several poems on rose, and the imitation of the rose garden in the poetry is really recreated by Muhammad bin Tughlaq in front of his palace. So that indicates the influence of certain ideologies, certain concepts, certain literary creations that of different writers. And it also proves that he was a widely read person. One more aspect or feature of his life I would like to say, which is related to scholarship. He was a very good player of chess. We have seen in between when he talks about chess, the game of chess, when he says checkmate, checkmate, and so on and so on. He also talks about solving the most difficult problem, which was not even solved by the real masters of chess, but he claims that he solved it. So you have the direct reference made to the real masters of chess or the game of chess, like Saraki or Al-Adil and so on and so on. One more feature that I would like to mention in this respect is, already he was a learned man, no doubt about it. But he was a man with a deep knowledge of the Holy Quran. He knows many minutes related to the Holy Quran. And that's why he has mentioned many a times that he is the votary of the God Almighty. But the contradiction that we find is what he says and what he does is actually something really very surprising to all of us. As far as his wisdom and intelligence is concerned, that can be seen in the course of the action of the play. His presence of mind is terrific. In a very fraction of a second, he will make his own judgment about someone or something. And most of the times, his judgments are correct. I would like to give one example in this respect that you also know very well. When Aziz disguised as Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, the descendant of Khalifa, and the moment Tughlaq had a glance on him, he had a doubt in mind that the person to whom he is going to welcome as Abbasid is not Abbasid at all. But since he himself was disturbed and frustrated, wanted a mental and religious solace, so he did not say anything about it, and he did not even point out to Aziz that he had a doubt about him. But towards the end of the play, as you know, in scene number 13, when Abbasid was invited there in the chamber, in one of the chambers of the palace, where Barni and Tughlaq both were discussing an important issue. The moment Abbasid came there, Tughlaq straightaway asked him a question, "Who are you?" And as soon as Aziz, who is disguised as Abbasid, listens to this question, astonished, and very quickly admitted that he is not at all Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, the descendant of Khalifa, but he was just an ordinary common dhobi. See here, it indicates that Tughlaq was very intelligent, wise, and had a terrific understanding. That is, you can even call it the presence of mind. When he deals with his stepmother, as you know, the murder of Nazib, he got certain clues from his own sources that Nazib is killed by his own stepmother. But he wanted to listen the same from the tongue of his own mother. Instead, he says or allegates anything, and she protects herself. He created the scenario in such a way that she makes comment about Nazib, his death, and ultimately accepts that she herself is responsible for the murder of Nazim. See how diplomatically Tughlaq has handled the situations. So what I personally feel, and I hope being a student of literature, you might have also appreciated this aspect of his personality. And one more thing we need to agree here, that he respects the men with knowledge. Whatever ideas he had and whatever vision that he set for the development of his own state or realm, and those who supported his ideas were always respected by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And they got the due advantage also. Many a times we have seen he acknowledges that God has given the Sultan the power of learning. Whatever presence of mind, intelligence, talent, wisdom, vision that he has is that of the blessings of the God Almighty. So as a whole, we come to a conclusion that Muhammad bin Tughlaq was a great visionary. See, most of the times it is observed in the history that the visionaries who have the foresight for the future were mostly misunderstood and misinterpreted by the contemporaries. And I think the same thing happened in the respect of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So Tughlaq's scholarship makes him a visionary. If you try to relate the threads here and there, you will realize that his schooling, his tremendous knowledge of literature, his wide knowledge of history, his reading that of Greek, Persian and Arabian literature, all these things have really gave him the kind of mindset where he could have a kind of vision while working as the emperor of his sultan. But it is really very unfortunate that this man who had a great vision for the development of his own state was misunderstood and non-cooperated by the contemporaries. And when he himself witnessed that his ideals are shattered, his vision is spoiled, his administrative reforms are the failure, his political agenda is totally disturbed, so he himself is also collapsed mentally and spiritually. Actually, he ruled over the country for around 20 years or so. First 10 to 15 years, or even I would say till 1332, continuously he put himself into action and continuously introduced a number of reforms for the development of his state. But his idealism was misinterpreted and misunderstood by the contemporaries. And when he realized that his own contemporaries, his own courtiers, his own people, and the most trustworthy people are also rebellious against him, he got disturbed and started butchering or murdering his enemies or the opponents. And then onwards, he starts a journey as a negative character. So we have two impressions of Tughlaq. One, the brighter side, as far as idealism, vision, intelligence, wisdom, presence of mind, and all these aspects are concerned. This is the bright or right side of his personality. But when you talk about his murderous approach towards his enemies or opponents, I think that totally shatters his image, what we really create in the beginning. So here we need to appreciate his idealism, his sense of justice that we could see. A man named Vishnu Prasad files a case against the Sultan, and Vishnu Prasad won the case against the state and got a certain benefit as pronounced by the Chief Justice of the Court of Delhi. But who was that Vishnu Prasad? Again, we come to know that Aziz in disguise as Vishnu Prasad, just to take the advantage of the concept of equality as introduced by Muhammad bin Tughlaq for his own subject. So he wanted to be so impartial while dealing or while treating his own subject. So he treated the people of different religions equally, because he knew that India is a country where you find Hindus, Jain, Buddhists, right? Then Muslims, and so on and so on. So that diversity was kept in mind by Tughlaq, and accordingly he planned his administrative reforms, but he failed. And when he realized that he is totally disturbed, shattered, disappointed with the situation, then he proved to be a tyrant. See, the man with idealism converts to be a tyrant. And that historical fact is really very, very troublesome to know about. So when he realizes that his ideals are shattered, the people whom he loved, they on the contrary hate him. Similarly, he becomes a man of intrigues, and one after the other, he continued to kill and finish off the opponents in politics. If you minutely study his vision, idealism, and so on, you will always accept that he was really a wonderful king. But the moment you see the lateral part of his life, when he realized that he is totally failed in the administrative and political point of view, his disappointment, frustration leads to his tyranny, and that tyranny is something really very, very shocking for all of us, and that gives us the negative picture of his personality. So this is what I would like to talk about, the character of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So thank you very much for patiently listening to this class.